Welcome back to Bookish Dives. Great to have you with us again.
Yeah, it's good to be back. We've definitely had some interesting dives together already.
We certainly have. And today, well, we're looking at a book with a title that just grabs you. Whatever you think the opposite, by Paul Arden.
Oh yeah, definitely a title designed to make you stop. And you see on the cover, he wrote, "It's not how good you are, it's how good you want to be." Plus, he was a creative director at Saatchi & Saatchi, so, credentials.
Right. And the blurbs just pile it on, don't they? The benefits of making bad decisions. Why unreason is better than reason.
It's about having the confidence to roll the dice. All very provocative stuff.
And that Gordon Brown quote, "I read this book 10 years ago, I'd be prime minister now." Whether that's true or not, it tells you this book isn't pulling any punches.
Absolutely not. It's promising some seriously unconventional thinking.
So our mission for this dive is basically to get into these ideas, unpack them, see what they're really saying about, challenging the norm and maybe finding a different way forward.
Yeah, let's dig in. The absolute core idea Arden keeps coming back to is that, well, success often comes from thinking or doing the exact opposite of what everyone else thinks is the right way.
He wastes no time giving examples.
Yeah.
Like Dick Fosbury, the high jumper.
Oh, the Fosbury flop. Classic example. Everyone jumped forwards face down for ages.
Right. And he just decides to turn around, go over backwards, look totally wrong.
Completely counterintuitive. People probably thought he was nuts. But it worked. He went higher. And pretty soon, everyone was doing the Fosbury flop. Thinking the opposite became the new standard.
It's a great illustration. He uses photography, too. Like, instead of taking a picture of a perfect, beautiful flower.
Which is the obvious thing, the conventional thing.
He talks about photographing dead, dried flowers. Irving Penn did this. Apparently made a photo look more like a skyscraper.
The point being, it's not about just making something pretty. It's about making it memorable, making people look again because it's unexpected. It challenges you.
Okay, I see. And then there's the story of Penguin paperbacks. Back in the 30s.
Yeah, Alan Lane. He wanted to sell proper books for 6 pence, like basically nothing.
And all the publishers, the booksellers, they said, "No way, you can't make money like that."
Total disaster, they thought. Only Woolworths would even take a chance on stocking them at first.
But Lane just thought the opposite.
Exactly. He figured there was a huge market for cheap, good books. He ignored the sensible advice, and, well, the book just says the rest is history.
It really is. Okay, another one. Kodak. George Eastman naming his company.
Right, back in 1888. He didn't want a name that meant anything, just something short, distinctive, easy to say, hard to mispronounce.
So he just made up Kodak.
Pretty much invented it. Arden makes the point that, a modern corporation would probably spend months in committees trying to come up with a name like that. Eastman just trusted his gut, did the opposite of logical naming conventions, became iconic.
And that simple visual, he includes the painting with "Do Not Touch" in Braille.
Yeah, I love that one. So simple. The only way to know what it says is to disobey the instruction.
A neat little paradox. It sums it up nicely.
And all these examples really lead into one of the book's maybe most challenging themes, embracing risk and what he calls unreason.
Right. The whole unreason is better than reason thing. That's a big claim. We're kind of wired to value reason, aren't we?
We are. But Arden flips it. He argues that taking risks is actually fundamental to security in life. It sounds weird, but...
How so? Like, how does risk lead to security?
Well, his point seems to be that if you always play it safe, if you always follow reason, you end up doing what everyone else does. You become part of the crowd.
Lost in the mix. Invisible, maybe.
Exactly. Whereas taking a calculated risk, doing something unreasonable, makes you stand out. It forces you to adapt, to think on your feet. And the people who create truly original stuff, he says, often do it by deliberately going against the grain, against what's currently fashionable or sensible.
They trust their instinct, maybe. Realize that the middle ground, the commonplace, is actually dangerous.
Yeah, dangerous because it's stagnant, maybe. He brings up Vivienne Westwood and Malcolm McLaren's shop, Nostalgia of Mud, selling clothes way ahead of their time.
Described as unwearable and unbuyable.
Yeah.
Sounds like a terrible business plan.
And it closed fast. But Arden asks, was it stupid or was it great? It failed commercially, maybe, but the impact it had on fashion and culture was huge. It depends how you measure success. Was it profit or influence?
That challenges the definition. And that other story, the Oxford professor taking a new dip.
Oh, yeah, the river bathing incident. Students show up.
And instead of covering his essentials, he wraps the towel around his head.
The right exposure, Arden calls it. It's unexpected, reckless maybe, definitely gets attention, just not the way you'd expect.
Okay, so this all ties back to the problem with making only sensible decisions.
Pretty much. If your decisions are always based purely on facts and logic that everyone agrees on, you're basically trapped in the same box as everyone else. Your results will be the same.
Safe, maybe, but
Hmm?
average,
Yeah.
predictable.
Exactly. Unsafe decisions, the unreasonable ones, they force you to think in new ways, to respond differently.
He makes a distinction between wanting something and wishing for it.
Yeah, that's quite sharp. I wish is passive, he says. It's just dreaming, like, wouldn't it be nice if leads nowhere?
But I want.
I want is active. It means you're actually going to make decisions, even decisions that look bad from the outside to get you there. He says taking those bad decisions towards what you want is how you end up achieving things others only wish for.
That's quite motivating, actually. It connects to that other idea, regretting inaction more than action.
Right, that classic feeling of looking back and wishing you'd just done the thing, taken the chance, instead of playing it safe. Many people reach old age regretting the things they didn't do.
He calls it the case for being reckless. As we get older, we get more reasonable, more aware of risks.
Like the older golfers he mentions, who play cautiously because they know everything that can go wrong, whereas younger players just go for it.
So the secret is to stay a bit childish. Keep some of that willingness to just try stuff.
That seems to be the suggestion. Keep that spark of, maybe, recklessness alive. He contrasts steady Eddie and reckless Erica in careers.
Ah, yeah. Eddie toes the line, conforms, rises steadily, but hits a limit.
Right. Appreciated for being sensible, maybe even just for looking the part. But Erica, she's annoying, full of wild ideas, maybe gets fired.
Sounds risky.
Totally. But she keeps generating ideas, some good, some bad, and eventually builds this reputation for originality and gets somewhere interesting. The punchline is, doing nothing wrong often means you're doing nothing much at all.
Ouch. That hits home. And the bit is called Are You Being Reasonable?
Yeah. He says most people are reasonable, and they do reasonably well. And then he says, that's unreasonable.
Because reasonable just gets you reasonable results, not amazing ones.
Exactly. If you want something more, you need to be a bit unreasonable. It's the age of unreason he talks about later, too, linked to that golfing idea. Knowledge can make you too cautious.
The book also really emphasizes taking charge of your own life, finding your own voice.
Oh, absolutely. He's very direct. You are the raw material. Only you shape your life.
And take charge isn't just about being the boss. It's about accepting responsibility.
Right.
Being your own harshest critic.
Yeah, don't wait for someone else to point out flaws. Find them yourself first. It pushes you to improve constantly.
There's also that counterintuitive advice about being interesting.
If you want to be interesting, be interested. Yeah, that's a good one. Instead of trying to show off how clever you are in a conversation or interview,
Which is what most people try to do.
you should focus on the other person. Really listen. Let them shine. Paradoxically, that makes them more interested in you.
It flips the script. Less performance, more connection. And that little story beat this. The aspiring drummer.
Right. Manager says, you don't play drums. Kid says, don't, but I'm going to.
Simple conviction. Having the goal, even if the current reality doesn't match, and then making it happen.
That conviction ties into the ego discussion, which is potentially tricky. Ergo ego.
Yeah, he argues great people have great egos, and that's okay. Even necessary.
He frames it constructively. Use your ego. Life is about me in a fundamental way, he suggests. Don't shy away from it.
He tells that story about the artist whose father was really modest.
Yeah, and after the father died, the artist stopped needing that external nod, started calling himself a genius, and apparently his work got much more inventive and unique. The ego fueled it.
And the Nelson's column analogy. Small pedestal is half Nelson, tall one is full Nelson.
Right. Height, prominence, assertion, it matters. How you present yourself affects your impact. Then there's the whole section on perspective and ideas. He really hammers the idea that there's no single right point of view.
He quotes Oscar Wilde, doesn't he? Most people are other people. Their thoughts are just quotes from others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Arden says, look, there are popular views, conventional views, majority views, but no right one. The big advances, the breakthroughs, they come from people with minority views, personal views.
He saw that in photography portfolios. Right. Most were good, but looked the same.
99%, he says. Technically fine, but boringly similar. The ones that stood out, the truly original ones, came from people who were maybe difficult, but had a unique perspective.
And the Jan Sadek example. The photographer is suppressed by the communists in '75 for having the wrong point of view.
Yeah. Arden asks, was he wrong then? Is he right or wrong now? It shows how right is often just the majority opinion of the time. Having an original view is one thing. Standing up for it takes courage. That's what makes a winner, he reckons.
It connects to that story about the friend at the bizarre art exhibition.
Right. Friend hates it, says it's not art, and the colleague points out, well, you don't understand it because it's new. You've got nothing to compare it to.
So the effort of grappling with the unfamiliar is more valuable than just liking what you're told to like.
That's the idea. Form your own opinion, even if it takes effort or means admitting you don't get it immediately.
Okay, so what about good ideas? What is a good idea, according to Arden?
Well, it's subjective, he admits. But generally, a good idea solves a problem in a fresh way. A bad idea just doesn't get used. A non-idea is nothing.
So the proof is in the pudding. An idea is only good if it actually gets implemented and works.
Pretty much. And the longer it sticks around, the more it's seen as a good or even great idea. The best ones become legendary.
But then he throws in a curveball. It's not always good to have ideas.
Yeah. Counterintuitive again. Some people aren't idea machines, but they're brilliant at making things happen, at executing.
And having too many ideas can be a problem.
Can be, because you might just flit from one to the next shiny thing without actually digging in and making the current one work. Execution is key.
And then the big one, steal.
Bold advice. But he doesn't mean plagiarize in the academic sense. He means absorb influences like crazy. Steal from anywhere and everywhere that resonates with you personally.
Because selecting what speaks to you is what makes your final output authentic.
Right. He basically says pure originality is a myth anyway, so don't hide where you got your inspiration, celebrate it. It's not where you take things from, it's where you take them to. That's the quote.
That's a really empowering way to think about influence, actually, especially for creative work.
Definitely. And sometimes, he adds, the clever thing is not to be too clever.
The blurry glass versus the clear glass example.
Exactly. Ask, what's that? About the blurry one, people guess. Ask about the clear one, they just say, it's a glass. Simple, direct communication is often more powerful.
Like that advertising slogan, bread, it makes sandwiches.
Perfect example, obvious, simple, totally effective, no need to overcomplicate.
He gets into some very direct career advice, too, like don't stay too long in a job.
Just flat out says it.
And even more intensely, resign. If things aren't working, if your ideas get ignored, resigning shows you're serious.
Takes guts, obviously. But his logic is, if you're really good, they might fight to keep you. If not, you were in the wrong place anyway, so it forces a necessary change.
And then the ultimate twist. Fired. It's the best thing that can happen to you.
I mean, that sounds absolutely terrifying to most people.
Right. But he reframes it completely, calls it a wonderful opportunity. If you were miserable anyway, getting fired forces you out of that bad situation.
You have to start over, rethink everything. You've been let go, literally released. It's a radical perspective shift.
It forces you off the conventional path, for sure. He mentions Churchill's point about being number two.
Yeah, that you're always thinking about the boss's thinking and its opposite. To really be in control, to be number one, you got to start your own thing.
Which leads to maybe the most controversial bit for many people today. Don't go to university. Go to work.
Oof. Yeah, that's a big one. He argues uni is often just a holding pattern for people who don't know what they want to do.
And that graduates often struggle to apply what they learned.
That's his take. He says starting work at 18 gives you a massive head start in real-world experience, the school of life. You can always learn specifics later if you need to.
It links back to that idea of ignorance being better than knowledge sometimes.
Sort of. Like, the excitement is in the figuring out, not necessarily having all the answers laid out. Like, watching football, the thrill is not knowing the score beforehand. Staying curious, staying a bit ignorant, keeps you striving.
And failure. Even failing exams. He calls that an achievement.
Yeah, because being bottom means you weren't just average. If school wasn't engaging you, maybe you're learning more important stuff elsewhere. Failure forces different thinking. That's valuable. Imagination, not just grades, makes life interesting.
He does give some practical tips for starting out, though. Getting a good company on your CV, even if it means working for free initially.
Being a runner, making tea for important people, sounds a bit old school maybe, but his point is it gets you noticed, builds goodwill. People want to help those who make a good impression.
As the book wraps up, it throws out a few final provocations, like don't be negative about rejection.
Right. He tells that story about comforting the young creative who was torn apart in a review, saying basically, hey, I was terrible at your age too. It normalizes the bumps in the road.
And the Sydney Opera House, again, sales talk. Utzon selling that complex design with just one simple, evocative word.
Capturing the essence. Powerful communication.
And that advice to the photographer Richard Avedon, astonish me, sets a high bar for creativity.
It really does. Not just do a good job. Astonish.
He poses that V&A Museum slogan dilemma too. Do you go for something effective but maybe less dignified, like an Ace Cafe with quite a nice museum attached, or something safe?
Makes you choose between maximum impact and playing it safe, preserving the image. What's more important?
And that final image, the striking picture of man with the caption, I don't like this man any more than you do.
Yeah. The impact is the reaction itself. It doesn't have to be nice or liked. It just has to make you feel something. That's the power.
So ultimately, it all comes back to simply change your life.
That's the core message, isn't it? The world is what you think of it. Think about it differently. And your world changes. Your life changes. Simple, but profound. And hard work, probably.
Definitely. He even teases his next book title, God Explained in a Taxi Ride, suggesting complexity can be made simple.
So yeah, diving into this book, whatever you think the opposite. It's really an exercise in shaking up your own perspective, isn't it?
Totally. It pushes you constantly. Ignore the obvious path, question everything, embrace the risk, trust your gut, find your own unique angle.
And the underlying promise is that that's how you get beyond just okay or reasonable results and maybe achieve something. Well, extraordinary.
It really challenges almost every standard piece of advice on career, education, decision-making.
It does. And if Arden's right, if the world is shaped by how you think about it, it really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What could change in your life if you really committed to thinking about it differently?
A very provocative thought to end on. Definitely gives you a lot to mull over. Thanks for joining us on this bookish dive.
My pleasure. It's a stimulating book.
It really is. And remember to follow Bookish Dives wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss our next dive into another fascinating book and its ideas.